Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This guy right next to me is Tim, and this is 2024, and welcome to this year. I cannot wait to hear what you guys did in the comments field below. But of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on because we have so much today to start out our first episode of 2024. Tim, it turns out there's a bit of a conundrum going on in Illinois. The deadline has passed, my man. I didn't see this coming.
You know what's interesting, though, as we get into this story, there's a consistency here. There is a consistency here. Let's see if the viewers can catch what this consistency might be.
You're gonna play coy, huh? Okay, that's cool. Well, that's the first one we've got, beautiful people. Then we're gonna follow in with some Democratic betrayal on CNN, which is hilarious. Followed up with some Biden numbers, which is also hilarious. And then we have got a new segment we're gonna introduce. You guys, let us know what you think at the end. But now, Tim, let's start off with the deadline that has passed. The deadline. The moment has come. The moment of truth. How do you think it worked out?
Well, we talked about this, last week, I think it was, and we were anywhere between 0.6 and 0.3% compliance in terms of, but they were very hopeful that right at the end, the last few minutes, everybody was going to, queue up around the building and there's just going to be this massive millions of people registering their rifles and stuff. And well, how'd that play out?
Well, it's odd, Tim. It is odd. It is a quandary, if you will. They didn't do that. We're still looking and waiting for the answer. Yes, it's
Americans,
crazy. I know,
being individual, rugged, Americans, free
with their rights,
sticking that middle finger high to the government that would try to oppress them. I mean, gosh, what is wrong with people?
It's a thing, but it's okay, Tim, because I think that we hit on this in our previous episode, where it's coming to a fever pitch point where basically the politicians in power have to make a decision. Did we talk about that on our channel? How it's becoming a credibility issue and a legitimacy issue? Did we touch on that?
We may have, because
I think we briefly touched on it.
Yeah,
because we were waiting on the moment for the deadline to pass. Well, let's get into it because the double down, it's coming. So this is number one, Dr. Button Pusher. Illinois has banned assault weapon ownership, but local sheriffs say they won't enforce it. Now what? No one knows is the short answer. So this is coming from a state source in Illinois, but this is, I find so fascinating because this is obviously a source oriented towards the left, Tim. Mm-hmm. The point at which we're at, what do you do? Like hypothetically, before we finish the rest of the article, what do you do if you pass a law and no one listens? What are the ramifications there?
Well, that's along the same lines as something like jury nullification, right? So we have no requirement to obey blatantly unconstitutional laws. And so what the sheriffs are doing and saying that we're not going to enforce this because this is a gross violation of the rights of the citizens of Illinois, what they're doing is perfectly within their purview. And so what we're seeing here, and this is what I was talking about, this isn't the first time this has happened. Remember when they did the magazine ban in Colorado and all the sheriffs came together and said, not enforcing it. Remember in New Mexico when decided she was going to ban the carrying of firearms in Albuquerque, and the sheriff came out and said, no, we're not enforcing that.
Right.
That is why look, folks, I have said time and time and time again, I am a huge advocate of sheriffs. Why? Because they're an elected official. They are accountable to their citizens, right? When you get into city police and stuff like that, those are political appointments. You have no say outside of voting whoever your mayor is and stuff like that. But with the sheriff, that's a directly elected official. And in our state, they have term limits, all that stuff. So yes, I look to the sheriff's department as kind of where I want to make sure I'm following who's running for office and be sure to vote for that person I feel is a constitutional sheriff. And the end result is this: they can and will, in many cases, protect your rights and help defend you against an overreaching state or federal government. They can tell all those people to kick rocks and get out of their jurisdiction. So this is exactly how it should work. Yeah,
I completely agree. And the beautiful thing about this isn't just one or two. I mean, we've seen this to your point.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say over and over and over again.
Yeah. We've seen it so many times. And in Illinois, you've got 90 plus sheriffs who are doing it. I mean, there's 102 counties and 90 sheriffs, and 90% are like, yeah, nah, boo. But then you also saw this in California, and we covered it. They tried. They were still a little gun control-y, but at least they said no while they were doing it. And then you've got Oregon, you've got Washington. All these sheriffs, New Mexico's a great. They're just like, constitutionally, I can't do what you're asking me to do. That's such a powerful point. But let's hear what the left is going to do in retaliation, because Tim, something must be done.
Oh,
right?
yes.
You can't have this amount of disorder, and that's where we get to the big important piece. So let me give you an update as of the I believe the 29th of this article. Yeah, the 29th. I'm going to get some new totals pretty soon, but as of right now, there's around 15,000 people, and this is number 3. There's around 15,000 people who have registered some 52,000 accessories or items overall. The 52,000 number that they're referencing here, I actually checked this. 52,000 is the total amount of items. 15,000 is the actual amount of people. So they're saying in this article it's around 2.3%, which high watermark, Tim, is 2.3%. It's actually much closer to like 0.6, 0.5. So that's where we're sitting right now, which has the left in a bit of a situation. I believe the new kids call it a situationship. I think that's what they call it. I've heard it on the internet.
Okay.
But you wouldn't know about that because you don't use that kind of language.
No, but I live on the internet, and I try to track what the Zoomers are up to.
I get it.
They got some pretty good quips.
They do have a couple. I'm personally a favorite of the Whatever podcast, but that's a different thing. Now, Tim, this is the key point. And I think it's a problem. This is number 5, Doctor. This mass non-compliance presents a major political challenge for Illinois ruling Democrats. It doesn't mean much that the party spent 2023 fighting for the PICA in the courts. That's the assault weapons ban. If those charged with enforcing the law decide they don't care what the courts say, well, they said it out loud there, didn't they?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's so
mass non-compliance.
The irony of them saying that they just don't care what the courts say. Well, the courts haven't chimed in on this, and when they have chimed in on similar issues, they would have sided with the sheriffs.
Correct.
How many times, Braden? How many times has an anti-gun case, and the anti-gunners won a case at the Supreme Court? How many times in your life have they won a Supreme Court case?
2.
Which
million?
I was going to say never.
Right.
So literally the sheriffs are upholding what the courts would say because we already know where the Supreme Court's going to fall on this. They've already ruled on this with Bruin and other cases and Heller and everywhere else. So it's not like what the courts might decide on this matter is really all that ambiguous. It's really not. There's a very good chance they're going to side with these sheriffs and the Constitution. Yes. So they're not, where do they get this? They don't care what the courts say. What is it? This is the legislature, not the courts. What are you talking about, goofball?
And it's the left. The left literally goes around ignoring the courts. All like we one of the biggest things we talked about all year was the sensitive places with California, New York. Like they were ignoring the court overtly.
I mean, take a look what Biden has done. The Supreme Court said, no, you can't pay off student debt. That is not something you can do. And what's he do? Okay, well, let's do it this way then. And he does it anyway.
Do it this way. Right. Like, well, come on, guys. At least be consistent. Well, this brings an interesting point, Tim. And this is the part to the legitimacy, and this is the part that we were talking about earlier on. What does a state level local government do when they overflex and they have complete power so they can't blame it on anybody else? Pretty much you have 2 options. If no one listens and there's mass noncompliance, as they just mentioned here in this article, you either have egg on your face or you start arresting people. Those are your only 2 options. Yep. Unless you have a third you can think of. Can you think of a third one?
No. I mean, really, they either enforce it or they don't. You have 2 choices here. And and this could go, I don't know what the article says. I haven't read any of this so far. But I mean,
we're about to get it.
But you know, they could do things like, you know what, we're going to bring in our own police forces. We're going to bring in state police. We're going to bring in somebody that's going to step on the necks of Illinois gun owners that's willing to break their constitutional rights. They could very well bring that in and just kind of try to override the sheriff's department. We had something similar to that happen here in Indiana. We had a fight between the local police in Indianapolis and the sheriff's department. They're trying to kick the sheriff's department out, even going so far as to threaten arresting the deputies that tried to enforce Indiana law within the confines of Indianapolis. So we've seen this type of fighting before. So it'd be curious to see what they do with this.
Right. Well, that's exactly right. So kind of talking about the exact same scenario is starting to set up here because, again, this is a leftist source. Listen to this. This is number 6. More practically speaking, Illinois State University legal studies professor Jason Sisilic said downstate sheriffs' refusals to enforce PICA represent a major affront to the state government's legitimacy. Are you seeing the fear? Are you smelling it?
Yeah.
It's delicious. Police not politicians, are ultimately the ones walking around with guns. And if law enforcement get away with disobeying the state here, what's to stop them from blowing off any other law that they oppose? Where does this begin and where does this end? So what you're starting to see here is the realization that if people are not enforcing your unconstitutional laws, you have no power. The emperor has no clothes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are you going to tell the gun control groups?
If the military says not doing it, you're kind of in trouble. And
right,
and so
exactly.
This leaves them in a position where they're either going to have to clamp down and look really Marxist, which, maybe they feel comfortable doing in 2024. Who knows? They're blatantly using Soviet era propaganda these days and imagery and stuff like that, promoting dear leader. So maybe they're willing to go down that path, but they're going to have to do something. They're either going to have to sit back and just take their lumps and go, wow, there's nothing we can do here. Or they become more militant and they decide to, like what I said, bring in state police or bring in National Guard or something else and try to force the sheriff's hands. And that's just going to get ugly. I mean, that could be a really, really dangerous thing to do. So we'll see what they do.
Well, here's what they're suggesting, Tim, and this is my favorite part about some of these articles. When you aren't aware of what we're about to talk about, and you hit on exactly where we're going next, it happens all the time. I love it. This is number 7. Sislik is worried about the repeat of the incident, which with state government left holding the bag for sheriff's refusals to rein in unlicensed guns. He urged the state government to get serious about the issue, perhaps even to levy criminal penalties against sheriffs who refuse to enforce the new law. You need some prosecutorial authority to step in and say enough is enough, Sislik said. I see the problem. This is number 8. I see the problem from Pritzker's position. The party's not going to go that way. It wouldn't do him any good to create a culture of victimization of sheriffs, because that's what the NRA would come out with. They don't want to give that narrative to Fox News. How amazing is that?
They are so political. It's so funny.
They are.
We can't give the narrative to Fox News, and the NRA might use this for propaganda.
It's true.
I know, but man, what a bunch of whiny little. Anyway.
Oh, absolutely. No, but that's the whole point. Look where they're stuck. This is the egg on their face versus the authoritarianism. You're going into an election year. Mm-hmm. Do you really want to go after constitutionally elected sheriffs for doing what they are perfectly allowed to do in the Constitution and making a narrative to basically reinforce your overbearing control? So you have those two options.
What's the end game?
You're either insignificant. Yeah. Well, exactly.
What's the end game?
You're either insignificant or you are a overbearing tyrant.
Right.
I think both. One does not rule out the other. But legitimately, it wraps with this quote: if somebody doesn't grow some teeth, we're going to see some blurring of the line.
Well, sweetie,
they want the blood.
Yeah. Well, sweetie, there's already a blurring of the line. And let me tell you what's going to happen if you go in there and try to remove duly elected sheriffs. You're going to see not just the sheriff's department, but potentially push back and say, no, you're not arresting our sheriff. Go kick rocks. Or you might even see the citizens rally around their sheriff who's trying to defend them and prevent that as well. I mean, this goes back to the Battle of Athens type stuff, man. This is
nice historical reference,
right? But seriously, this is the type of stuff that can kick things off very quickly in a very, very politically charged atmosphere. Because I'll tell you what, I would protect my sheriff who was protecting me. Absolutely, right. I would defend my sheriff who was standing up for my rights.
But the best part is though, you don't even have there is no action beyond just standing up verbally and saying that ain't happening. You're talking about a national political environment where everyone's just waiting for an edge and everyone's waiting a narrative and all. They even alluded to it right there. Yeah, go across 90 out of your 100 sheriffs and say there's going to be criminal enforcement for something that they're not going to enforce, which is an unconstitutional law. Go ahead. I'm about to show you guys. We're about to go into the next segment where I show you guys Biden's poll numbers and what the Democrats are saying on CNN. Good luck. Yeah. Good luck on so many levels.
Oh, that'll backfire. That'll backfire on them. I mean, it could backfire politically, but it could also backfire in terms of violence. I mean, people can become quite violent when you do things like this. And so maybe they're trying to push that narrative. Maybe they're trying to push people over the edge. Who knows? But
we won't do it though. We ain't going to take the bait because we're all about the mostly peaceful protest here on the Second Legacy. Bring your bonfires and your marshmallows.
Well, what do
much
you
as
think's going to
peaceful.
happen if there's a standoff between the local sheriff's department and the state police or whoever they send down there to sic them? I mean, like you said, there's 90 of 100 and some sheriffs
Yeah.
out there saying ain't going to do it. What are they going to do? Remove all sheriffs in the state of Illinois? Good luck with that.
No.
And the
Yeah,
citizens are going to
exactly.
come
What
to
I
their aid.
think, yeah, what I think is going to happen is they don't want that standoff politically. So I believe that they will do something to the point that is a figurehead move, like condemning them executively, signing off on something, going to the bully pulpit, passing some sort of extension. They're going to do something that satisfies the problem to save face, but also try to pin it on the sheriffs, short of going after them prosecutorially.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're that stupid, but I think they will try something very slick. But we'll be watching. We will be watching because they are at a point. They got to do something.
Well, just keep in mind, folks, when they're saying somebody needs to grow some teeth, that implies enforcement, using force for enforcement. Now, what do you think happens? One thing that we know about police in the United States is they don't back down. It's kind of their policy, right? So if they send the state police in and they escalate this and try to force these sheriffs into complying, like they threaten them with force, they threaten them with arrest, they threaten them. Well, now you've upped the ante because you can't just go, oh, well, they're still resisting. Correct. Okay, everybody come back. Let's try something else. That's not how this works anymore. Because once you push that button, it's going to play out to the end. So you get two alphas, one saying you ain't doing it, and the other one saying, oh, yeah, I am. That's where the danger comes from, right? That's what I'm saying. That's where violence can spark. That they have to be very careful how they handle this because they're dealing with, two armed camps here. Correct. One saying, protecting the Constitution. The other one saying, screw the Constitution. I'm putting you in jail. Where's that end?
Right. That I do not foresee that occurring here.
I hope they're smart enough.
In my opinion. Yeah, exactly. In my opinion, what you just saw over the last year was the government of Illinois, the gun controllers pushing the government of Illinois all for a virtue signal in order to get it so Pritzker can push his political agenda further. And I think that the big moment of pushing the envelope too far was actually the passing of that law. And now that the mass noncompliance has occurred because the deadline's passed, I think you're going to see a very weak, meager response because they can't escalate it beyond an election year. Now, if this was like right after the election, I think you would see a more aggressive response. But because it's right before the election, I don't think you're going to see a massive attack. I think they're just going to have egg on their face and try to save face the best they can. That's my own personal opinion.
Yeah, well, they'll threaten the citizens, with noncompliance and what we're going to do to you. I just don't see them. I hope pushing it to the point where, Anyway, let's move on.
I hope too. But you know what? Speaking of hope, we have another segment this time. We've got actual clips, Tim. We got fancy on 2024. We got two clips, and this first one is from CNN. Now, are you aware? And I'm sure the people may be or may not be. Are you aware of who David Axelrod is?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. Well, if you guys on Second Legacy are not aware, David Axelrod is the guy who got Obama elected. He was in the Obama White House for 8 years. He's kind of a mainstay around the Democratic Party. Well, he's talking about Trump and the whole removal of ballots. He's going down this whole road. But listen to what he says. And I think that this one segment is so fascinating, particularly when you join it with the next one. Let's play number 9, Doctor.
Primary, we've run this experiment. He's only gained since he started getting indicted. What you thought might be kryptonite for him has turned out to be battery packs. And this is a big one for him. Presumably, the Supreme Court will deal with it fairly quickly. And I expect that they will leave him on the ballot. And yes, Brianna, I have very, very strong reservations about all of this. I do think it would rip the country apart if he were actually prevented from running, because tens of millions of people want to vote for him. I think if you're going to beat Donald Trump, you're going to probably have to do it at the polls.
Yeah. And
there's so much there in that 30-second clip. First of all, this is a mainline Democrat, Tim. He's saying that on CNN. CNN is the land of the Democrat. I mean, like the people that you got right there, one guy on the left there, he is the New York chairman of the Democratic Party, and the guy in the middle is Adam Kinzinger. He's a U.S. rep who was on the January 6th commission against Trump. So, I mean, like, this is not a friendly. And then, of course, Kiana Baylor. I don't remember her last name. Whatever, doesn't matter. CNN anchor. I think it's Kylar is what I think her last name. Brianna Kylar. This is not a friendly environment. And the thing that caught me the most about when I was watching this clip, he says the word "we ran" or the phrase "we ran this experiment." This was an experiment.
Yeah.
That's not a great idea.
No.
And I thought it was about justice and stuff.
Well, see, once again, they're playing a very, very dangerous game here. If the Democrats weren't so scared of Trump, they wouldn't be doing any of this. They really think he has a crack at winning the presidency. This is why they're trying to get him off the ballots. This is why no charges were brought against him until he announced. This is why we had pretty much, the left continued to attack Trump after he left office. That's normal, past presidents. For how long did they blame Bush for everything? It's like, that's typical. But what's not typical is going so far, being so scared of your political opponent that you go out there and drum up a bunch of charges that you just ignored for years. But he goes, I'm announcing I'm going to run for president. And, in 24, all of a sudden, 91 indictments show up out of the blue. And that's not working. Every time they charged him and did the perp walk with him, his poll numbers went up.
They shoot up.
And so they thought that, these guys are actually, they're idiots, but after all, they're Marxists, and that you have to be an idiot to be a Marxist. But they don't see that by going so far as to take him off the ballot, now they're going to really prompt people to get vocal. Yep. And once again, this is how you incite violence. And perhaps that's what they want. Look what they did with the January 6th stuff. They would love nothing more than violence, because that's how they win, through chaos and things like that. That is how the Marxists gain power. They do it through chaos and violence.
In a hypothetical, though, let's just add what you just said as a theory, and this is a complete hypothetical theory, right? Let's just say that the desire was to get or to elicit a reaction so you could pin more stuff on people so you could go more against the candidate, right? Let's just say the whole plan was to elicit that reaction. Even that has failed, right? So when you have an entire narrative of this one individual group and this one individual person following and leading this group, they're all evil, mean, they can't control themselves, these horrible, violent things happen. But the more and more you poke them right in the face, nothing's happening. You start to lose that credibility. And for him to say, we tried this great experiment, but it's just turned into be a battery pack, not kryptonite, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
They had orchestrated meetings saying this will get him off the ballot. This will lose him support if we indict him this many times, if we raid him this many times, if we put him on the main focal point in a negative light, completely basically blanking on the idea that if you make someone a victim, they're going to be supported as such, when it's that obvious. It is that obvious. And the whole thing was an experiment, Tim. You didn't know?
Yeah. Well, it's failing.
It is.
And they know it. Yeah.
Yeah. He even said openly right there, the Supreme Court's going to take action quickly and they're going to put him back on the ballot. It's like, then why are you doing this, you liberal ideologues?
Yeah. Again, they're playing with fire, man. We are at a point in this country where the divisive nature of our politics is so bad, where family members are being uninvited from Christmas dinner, and
and that's sad.
People are moving to their own separate camps, and they're isolating, and they're turning their backs on people that don't think like they do. And worse than that, we're seeing violence and protests everywhere, and shutting down traffic, and it's just the political environment in the United States is probably as volatile as it was in the mid 1800s as we went into the Civil War then. And when these Democrats go out there and they start purposely conducting experiments that can prompt people to violence, these people are bringing about utter chaos in an effort to maintain power or to gain power.
Correct.
And this is the problem with that side of the aisle. And the Republicans, many people will get upset with them because and not give them a pass because they don't respond in kind. But what would happen if the Republicans became just as volatile and just as crazy as the leftists? We would have violence. So somebody has to be the adult in the room, and that's what they're trying to do, because the Democrats are perfectly fine conducting their experiments that could result in really bad things.
It's so messed up. And then at the very end, if you're going to beat Trump, you're probably going to have to do it in the polls. I feel like that would have been an appropriate response about 2 years ago. I feel like that.
It's a little late. Yeah, that ship sailed.
Smidgen late. Because to me, Tim, and wrapping this one clip, this is my hypothesis. You tell me if you agree or not. Of course, You are the wise sage, after all. If they had just left him alone, don't you think he would have faded a lot more than if they kept on poking at him?
Oh
Do you think
yeah,
it would have?
they elevate him.
I'm just curious.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just, asking for a friend.
He's a product of their own creation. He truly is.
I was just curious. Well, there's got to be some reason, though, Tim, right? Because there's always a why behind all these actions. Why don't we play number 10? Let's see if this has anything to do with it, released at the same time.
How about the Democratic end of things? Joe Biden seems poised to be the Democratic nominee. What kind of year has he had politically? Well, again, he started 2023 coming off those good midterms for Democrats, and his approval rating, 46-50, wasn't that bad, but it's taken a hit this year. And as we start to close out the year, our final NBC poll had him at just 40% approval, 57% disapproval. How does this compare to past presidents entering their reelection year? Here you can see it. Here's the 40 that we have Biden at right now. These are all the final polls heading into the election year, re-election year that NBC conducted. You just see all the recent presidents. Look, Trump got beat in 2020. He was at 44 heading into his re-election year. Bush Sr. got beat in 92. He was at 52 and heading south rapidly there. But you see how that number compares. That's the lowest. That's the lowest in an NBC poll for an incumbent facing a re-election year.
Wonder if that has anything to do with it.
CNN has done several episodes like this, showing how bad Biden's doing polling wise. And yeah, I mean, the guy is wildly unpopular. And despite their best efforts to get all their talking heads out there talking about Bidenomics and how great everything is, and disregard your lying eyes, folks. You're really doing quite well. That third job you took yesterday, man, look at all the jobs we're creating.
Look at all the jobs. Look at all the jobs we created. You're working 9 of them, but man, did we create a lot of them.
Right. It's unbelievable. But, I'm sure somehow he'll pull off. If Trump he did what, 75 million votes last time around? Trump did.
I think so.
And
but
Biden
the other one was
did about
81
million. Yeah. So
the most votes ever.
Right. Like more Americans voted in 2020 than have ever voted in an American election ever. And I'm pretty sure that, Biden could probably do even better. I mean, if Trump gets another 75 million or maybe even 80 million, thanks to the boosting of the Democrats, I'm pretty sure Joe Biden can get 300 or 400 million votes.
I think so. I think we're looking easily, really, really focused, buckle down, spend a lot of time grinding under the midnight oil in the basement of the White House. Yeah.
And the Democrats are really fond of, allowing people just to come into our country undocumented and vote. So maybe they're going to start an active campaign in Canada and in Mexico to get Canadian and Mexicans motivated to vote. They probably don't have the same voter laws up there, so they can give them money and things at the polls to kind of incentivize their vote. They can't do that technically here, but who knows? The Democrats are pretty crafty. They're pretty good.
The world is their oyster, but you know what I would like to say, just for the YouTubes out there and all the people, that was a amazing fictional opportunity.
Yes, I'm just having a bit of fun.
Hypothetical. Oh my goodness, the imagination on this guy. Anyway, moving right along, they would never. Tim, is it time for your new segment? Is that what we're at right now?
Well, let's do a goofy gun grabbers because it kind of dovetails into our first segment. And then let's talk about the new segment. And with the new segment, folks, we're going to ask you guys to comment down below. We haven't come up with a name for it just yet. So if you have some ideas, give us those ideas in the comment section down below. But before we get to that, let's pop up number 11 here, Doc. So, of course, we talked about what's going on in Illinois with their assault weapons ban. And this post is from Mark Jacob. And he posted a picture of Darren Bailey, and Darren Bailey ran against Pritzker, and he's active. He's a political figure within the state of Illinois, and here he is sitting at his table working on a puzzle with 2 firearms laying on the table, and he said, "I'll be there putting together this puzzle, waiting for Pritzker to knock on my door and take my guns. I will not comply." Now, there's a lot of folks out there saying this is quite based. I mean, he's basically sticking the middle finger high and inviting trouble from state authorities, but he's doing what an American should be doing, in an ideal world, right? Americans stand up for their rights. And he's saying, I'm not going to comply with an unconstitutional law. Here you go. Pretty interesting stuff. And so this kind of, like I said, dovetails into our first segment. And, we'll keep an eye on what's going on with Darren Bailey. Will Pritzker go after him? Will they?
No.
Do you think they will? Do you think they'll try to make an example of him? Or do you think this could escalate things to a dangerous level and they're going to have a more metered response? It should be interesting to see how this one plays out.
Well, Tim, I think you're missing the obvious affront to humans everywhere in that image. Is he doing a puzzle from the outside in Because I'm pretty sure you're supposed to do it from the inside out.
Yeah.
That's the real problem here. Because I see a full perimeter, and I have an issue with that. I take
it
issue.
is, yeah. He might be doing a little bit backwards, but let's talk about what old Mark had to say too. So Governor Pritzker and the legislator and the people of Illinois aren't coming for Republicans' assault weapons. Okay, we're just asking him to register them according to the law.
That's weird.
I mean, it's not like registration ever. I mean, why do you register a firearm? Why do you want to register a person and what they own? Is it just because you're curious?
Data.
Or is it
data analysis?
Nefarious? Like, we're going to get you to register them and we're not coming for them. You can keep them. We don't want them. We just want to know you got them. Well, why you want to know we got them? Because we're going to take them.
But just in case.
Just in case.
I don't, no reason. After all, Tim, does it say fascist? Are they bringing back fascist?
And then he goes, if he won't, he should be arrested. The GOP is a fascist party that cares nothing for law and order. I think Reagan had something to say about that, about if fascism ever comes to the United States, it'll come in the form of liberalism. And he talks about all the way fascists manipulate the economy and involve themselves in private business and things like that. The Democrats act more fascist than the Republicans, but hey, we won't get into all that.
I mean, wait, hold on. I think it bears a very important part here, Tim. Fascism is the merging of corporations and government for their own means and benefit, right? I mean, that's still
heavy
the
regulation by
definition,
government.
right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. It's weird because I'm pretty sure the left is the one that has all the intertwining with the corporations right now. Like, I don't know, in the gun control fight alone, Every Town for Gun Safety, Moms Man Action, March for Our Lives, they sure do seem tied directly to the Democrats to do what they want, doesn't it? Isn't that weird? It's because the corporation and then the government.
And on another note, in fascist regimes, which ultimately generally wind up in dictatorships, what do they normally do? They hold mock elections and they keep actual opponents off the ballot, don't they? Because even though they vote in North Korea, but it's a one-party state.
Yeah.
They voted.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
Kim Jong-un got the most votes that's ever happened. Yeah. He was 100%. Everyone loves him.
The People's Republic of Korea, right? They're trying to claim, look, we have free elections.
Yes.
And that's what the Democrats want. They want a one-party state. That's why they keep people off the ballot. That's why they want to get rid of the Electoral College. That's why they want to do all these things. It's so they can assure their power base. They can assure that they have that one-party state. So when you go to vote, you get one choice, folks.
Or my personal favorite of the political system of the last 30 years. Here's your two options. We've pre-approved both of them. Both ones we win, but you get a choice. You rat.
Don't get me started on the two-party system.
Okay, I won't, because you know what you have to do? You got your crayons out and you made some artwork.
Yeah, I did. So here's the new segment, folks. You can't really call this a meme review. It's just out there having fun, taking some of the stuff that the people that politically oppose me, and then taking some of the images and stuff that they post, and then kind of having a little bit of fun with them. So if you could throw up number 12, Doc, this is an image I saw going around on X, and it talks about Joe Biden and all of his great accomplishments. Right. And they've kind of, it started with Obama, and it's kind of carried on that stylistic, propagandistic imagery like you see here. They just really enjoy that. It's so Marxist. I mean, it's like Soviet era propaganda imagery.
It absolutely is.
And so I thought, well, that would be a little bit of fun. So if you bring up number 13, I responded to these folks, and there's this thing trending on X right now, boomers for Biden and all this other crazy stuff. And so I've been posting this, number 13. So I went out and actually took a Soviet era piece of propaganda, took old Joe's head off of it, stuck it on there, and look, it fits perfectly.
Nah, that's so good. It's so good. And it blends too. The same stylization, like everything. I think you added the laser eyes. You like laser eyes.
I did add the laser. Well, that's because the whole Dark Brandon thing and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Yep. So
I think it's uncanny how well that works with the old Stalinistic Soviet propaganda. That is so crazy. You done good. You even kept the Cyrillic. Look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you.
I know. Well, there's one more. So the other thing that they try to do on social media is post all these pictures of Uncle Joe. Like, look how friendly he is. He's such a great guy. Never mind the fact he used to run around naked in front of female Secret Service agents at the pool in the White House, things like that. No, he's just sniffing. Uncle Joe is just a good guy. And so they'll post pictures of him having his morning cup of coffee. And so if you take a look at number 14.
I got hairy legs.
They would feel my hairy legs. So if you take a look at number 14, Doc, they posted this picture of Uncle Joe having his morning cup of Joe. And I just had to make a little tweak to it. Can you spot the
nailed it.
tweak?
No. Yeah, I think you changed the coffee cup color. You added another coffee cup because he has two for some weird reason.
A red one to go with the red
that.
horns. Yeah. You know,
Yes.
sometimes you got to drink 2 cups of coffee, I guess, when you're busy saving
true.
the
Why-
free world.
That's actually very curious. I am kind of curious why he has 2 cups of. I am actually curious about that.
I
Why
didn't
does
put
he
the
have
red
2?
one in there. That's not me. Nope.
No, I know you didn't because the ones in the back have the same matching red ones. That's
Yeah.
clearly the theme of where they are.
Maybe it's just a
But
cup
why
of
does he
espresso
have-
before the coffee. Who knows? Maybe.
That's so odd.
Yeah.
Something's afoot.
Well, he is not.
Something's
man.
afoot.
It's maybe
anyway,
maybe
yeah.
that's how he gets the hair to stand up on his legs so the kids can pet it. Who knows? But anyway, so
Maybe.
this last one I can't take credit for. I just simply
Nope.
saw it. This is a meme review, if you will. But 2024 is upon us. This is our first episode post 23, going into 24, and I saw this one pop on X, and it absolutely made me laugh because it's so true. I think Braden agrees with me.
It is.
Doc, if you could throw up number 15. This is how we kind of feel in the 2A community moving into 2024.
Yes. You know what else, Tim? And I just thought about this thought. So if I was ever trying to encapsulate how I feel when you get on a sensitive topic to you and something you really care about, and you go on a Tim rant, that door should be labeled Tim rant, and that should be me on the left. Where I'm just
Maybe
me
we
and
can
you
alter
two are
this.
sitting behind
Yeah.
a shield. I'm like, I really hope this works out.
When I start going off on a rant, Doc can throw this up. We'll take the 24 off, put Tim rant on the door, and then we'll play elevator music.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Oh, dude, that's so true. But no, I think it's accurate. I loved your artwork. That you have an artistic expression that is unmatched, unparalleled in the artistic world. And I think we all feel like that about 2024.
Yeah, 2024 should be an interesting ride, folks. Folks, we started Second Legacy in 23 last February. It's been almost a year. We want to thank you guys for watching the channel, sharing our videos, taking part in the conversation in the comment fields down below. It's been an amazing year. We're really looking forward to 2024 with your support. Thank you for watching Second Legacy, folks. Have a great 24, and we'll talk to you guys soon.